we're back again, and we've got some interesting things to show. We have two ADT Aeros. Fun fact about these is originally it was just the Aero, and I think it got bought by AFA, and then at some point after that, ADT bought it. So this is not even the original Aero, I learned, but we've seen this one before. What we haven't seen is this one. So what's really interesting about this is that for the most part, they condensed the top half of this unit, like from here. Oop. That's funny. That's the relay that's doing this chime right now. From here on up is basically condensed into here on up, this corner. So they managed to squeeze all this down, these two pressure switches, which in this one I think they go up and down, whereas in this one they go front and back. And the front and back of the ones on this one would actually trigger this lever here, and that would actually, I believe, push this out like that. There we go. I think we're getting to the end. So I guess not. One more. And there it is. So, you might ask what just happened there. At the end of it, it just stays in trouble mode, basically. So it leaves it essentially closed, with the shunt closed and the bell ringing. And it would stay like that, I guess, until you reset it. I'm not really sure how the intention was, if the panel would have dealt with that or what. But until you rewind it, it stays like that. Now, as you can see, as soon as I rewound it, all the conditions reset. And that seems to be how it works. There's a few kind of interesting points about that, which is down here you can see there's actually two shunt contacts. One is joined with the code, and the other one is a standalone. And I do take advantage of both of those just because it's easier to wire things up that way. And then what else? Some interesting details here. This says, remove clip from back of unit before operating. Wonder how long that sticker's been on there. Well, I have an answer for you. 70 years. 74 years, maybe. 1950. That's crazy. So definitely some interesting stuff in here. There's also almost a wiring diagram here. And yeah, it's kind of, didn't mean for that to happen. It's kind of what I know here. This is the one side of the code wheel. They're calling that line in, which I guess you could do that. This they're calling line out, which would be the common for the shunt and the code wheel. The shunt wire, they're calling this, which, yeah, I guess I'm using sort of, yeah, I'm using that almost as my input. And then the local contact and the bell annunciator contact. Yeah, so that's what they're calling the separate shunt. They're calling that the local, like, annunciator contact. That's cool, actually. Makes sense that it would be a separate dedicated contact for that. So that's the one on the very bottom there, this contact here. And then the other kind of cool thing about this is that when it's all wound up and in its good position, or whatever you want to call it, it sort of fits, like locks together. Maybe grab a flashlight here or something. There you go. Now you can see it. See how it's locked into that groove? So essentially, you know, that's what it does when you rewind it. You rewind it past where it needs to go, and then it clicks this little like thing right here when you get to the very end, and then at that point it sort of winds back down until that notch hits in there. Then once that notch hits in there, then this pops up, and it's basically ready to run at that point. What's different from this one? Well, a few things. Other than the fact they combined the whole thing into one little corner. There's no real solenoid or sort of any sort of relay on this one, so I wasn't sure if this had any way to remotely activate it. As far as I can tell, the remote activation would have been the heat detectors going off, but I don't think there's any direct way to remotely activate it other than just to do the break glass, which would have pushed in that. However, given it takes a very, very light pressure to activate it, you could easily add a solenoid to activate this. So it's an idea. I may do such a thing because I could probably sneak one in maybe under here to push on that little thing that's right there. So it's an idea. But right now, just kind of as a March time wind-up, pre-wound, it's already working great for that. And using this to do 24 volts AC for the auto call executive chime. We're using this relay here. It's doing, I think it's 6 volts AC, although these technically, I think 5 or 6 volts they run on, give or take. What's interesting is that you may note that those two, the bell and this chime, look very similar. This is branded ADT, this is branded Faraday. Both are using a sparkless mechanism, but one is single stroke and one is not. I do believe this is a Faraday mechanism, and I believe what it is a sort of cost-cut, sort of later version of probably the old Schwarz sparkless mechanism. So this, I believe, is going all the way back to that, because there's no spark, and it's sort of just all based on magnetism. So yeah, these are both running off the lower 5-6 volts AC. So they're running off that relay, and then this is running off the other Aero box, basically. What else? The Pyrotronics lamp was acting as the running shunt lamp. Yeah, pretty much it. These two are just doing normally open, normally closed. Yeah. And so were the chimes. This was, I think, normally open. That was normally closed. And I think this was, that's normally open as well. So actually these two, the far end were normally opens and this was normally closed. So yeah, basically what I did in the little demo here. What else? I think the other card is blank. It's just the same as the first card, just they didn't fill it out. Trying to think if there's anything else to talk about with this thing. It's pretty self-explanatory otherwise. I mean, it's very similar to this, just has a code wheel that gets activated by the switches instead. The break the glass on this one obviously is a little different, but I mean, this whole thing comes off as almost, I don't know if it looks newer or older. They both, they look so extremely different from each other and almost work a little different. I mean, this has the pressure switches going up and down, and this one hasn't. But, I mean, it's the same thing. They just managed to squish this whole thing into that corner and then put this whole thing here and then all the contacts here. Whereas this, they kind of spaced it all out. Contacts down here, even got a little on-off switch. Yeah. In my case, this thing is basically just acting as a relay box. I added a little switch here to let you switch between 6 volt, 12 volt, and 24 volt. And there's some resistors in there that lower it down. So I think that I had done the last video, or part of it was done anyway. My last time I used this anyway. So not too much else there. I guess I could have had the big Reeve bell in here too, because that's also ADT, but I think for sake of audio clarity, this was probably enough. But yeah, this has been another ADT Aero video and some new chimes. Until next time, folks.